Good to have you join us on the program. We just want to quickly look at very interesting elements within the economic issues that we have come to find in Nigeria, particularly looking at it from the angle of the fact that the president today has appointed, or as it were, inaugurated the Economic Advisory Council to be able to better position Nigeria's economy. But again, questions have been asked about how effective this initiative will be, and then going forward, how much of value this will bring to the economy overall. I'm joined by a very respected academic, Dr. Charlie West Eboigbe, on the program this morning, the lecturer at the University of Benin. So good to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
Let me begin with last year, 2018, for example, sometime in November, when the CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, had talked about how that, economically speaking, the road for Nigeria was still rough and will be very tough. When you hear statements like that from somebody in the capacity of Mr. Godwin Emefiele, what does it say to you?
Economically, that statement is not new to us. Nigerians are used to getting such comments from high-profile individuals. What is new to us is, have we had a deliberate attempt and effort at changing the narrative? Every government that comes will tell you citizens brace up for an uneasy sail, brace up for a difficult time. But have we decided to change it? Is there any time Nigeria has ever had it so difficult? When I mean Nigerians, I mean the followers. He is privy to information, to statistics. Even yourself, we all know. Sometimes when we try to put Nigerian statistical information, the developmental indices, vis-a-vis the global benchmarks and best practices, you will know clearly that we have a problem on our hand that we are not ready to put an end to. There are very many. Is it the health issues? A friend was diagnosed of having a problem, was referred to a medical doctor who in his own right is an authority. I won't mention the hospital here. It's a federal government hospital, so to say. He got there only to be told that the young man has gone out. When I mean outside the country. As I speak with you, the guy is still with his ailments. If you try to go to the legal department of most of our tertiary hospitals, federal government or whatever, it will marvel you to see the degrees of rot, negligences. What is at the part of the hard time we're talking about? Is it the academics you go to? Brother, sometimes some of us, we easily write off the nation and say, well, however it goes. But my worry is, some of the good brains that Nigeria is supposed to build its nation around have all left, and they are milling out in drones. Ask them. One was in my office yesterday. He said, brother, how could I be driving my car? A madman just smashed stone on my windscreen. What do I do? Break the windscreen. Who do I hold responsible? It's part of the hard time we're talking about on the macro scale. At the macro scale, it is a thing that people like us, we are not comfortable with. Fine, you see, the CBN government we talked about, he rolled out some products that should not attract some benefit from government. But if you look at those of the other one that are attracting, how many of them are for research and development? Just yesterday, Samsung was reputed as one of the greatest companies in the world that have the strictest and safest room.
Okay.
Where they conceal their industrial giant strive. If I tell you the research and development budget of Samsung is higher than Nigeria government research and development budget.
And that's just budget for R&D for only one company.
Research and development. So You couldn't have imagined him to say the least. Nigerians are brazen up, and it's actually unfortunate. Even this morning, I think the Senate, one of the senators, I don't know who said it explicitly, said the public outcry on 5.something, whatever, this and that, it's malicious, it's evil.
35.5 billion naira earmarked for buying SUVs for senators.
Said it's evil, it's well concocted, political, whatever, all those things. And sometimes, you see, the populace lack what it takes. I'm on the public and just on the media that people believe and respect. The only solution Nigerian has is what we have been avoiding. At times, I say there is safety in ignorance. Yes, there is safety in ignorance. While I was driving to your station this morning, let me digress a bit. I refused to subject my car to that water.
The one in front of S&T?
Yes. I was accosted by some road traffic, whatever. I said, well, I have paid my tax judiciously. I've rendered my services as a citizen of this nation judiciously. I've gone through all the desired functions as a citizen. What else again should I do? Is that water not been there for a number of months? That's the hardship we're talking about, the hard time Nigerians are talking about.
I want to bring your mind, draw your attention to something a bit more economical. In the last, within the first 4 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's government, Professor Yemi Osinbajo headed the EMT, that is the Economic Management Team. Is it too early to do an assessment of the EMT, even though that's behind us now?
The EMT, Economic Management Team, was the agency that gave birth to the ERGP, Economic Growth Plan, whatever,
exactly,
as it were. From the very beginning, at my professional arm, we have always queried the ERGP. Sometimes, when you hand down a policy from up without the participatory involvement of the supposed implementing organ, it floats. And once the thing remains afloat, it cannot achieve the set objective. It's not too early. Policies have short-term, medium-term, and long-term. For 4 years, is reasonably enough to assess the impact of these things. Mind you, these policies are not alien to Nigeria. Some of them may have been copied from other developed climes. But we have a structure in this nation that will not allow those policies to work. And those structures are what you and I, we know them. We know them. But we evade these things easily, all because nobody wants to breast the tape. In what sector can we now score the government? Yes, that they have done exceedingly well. The government that come under the rubrics of 3 major campaign: economy, security, and what the other one?
At least let's talk about economy and security.
Have we achieved anything on these two? Nigerians are getting poorer by the day. Security. Sometimes we try to decide to build castle on the air. No nation survives with the level of insecurity compared to what we have today. Till today, I think it is a global, is known, not even just a mere say. United Arab Emirates, one of the Emirates in United Arab Emirates, is the safest place in the world today. Why? It was a calculated attempt pursued with option A, alternative B. The government of the arm headed by Professor Yemi Osinbajo, like you said, our respectable and highly decorated vice president, so to say, is not bereft of policy, but the political will to so implement it is a problem.
You talked about structure a while ago. By the way, I think it's corruption we're trying to recall as the third arm. Yes. Corruption. But let me take your mind back to something now. Yes. I
didn't want to say corruption. Yes. Because all of us know what corruption is.
Exactly. Which of course is not a bad idea.
It's even worse than where we were before.
Yes, exactly. For a government to say our focus will be on 3 things.
Yes.
Say economy, security,
yes,
and corruption.
Yes.
It's great. But let's look let's narrow it further down to the issue of the economy, for example. The government has been able to put its hands in several areas, agriculture inclusive, for instance. Are we saying we don't have areas in particular where the government has earned a pass mark or something, for example?
Nigeria, by all definition, landmass, we are favorably disposed to that. Weather, climate, every other thing. The agriculture we talk about, I have traveled the length and breadth of this nation. At least by the grace of God, I've covered about 2/3 of the states in this nation. Though here now, I am not sure I have a better knowledge of federal government agricultural projects. I am not aware. Maybe because I'm not in governance. But crossing the local government, the 18 local government, one is supposed to see, I think, a signpost indicating that federal government agencies here. At a time we're seeing Fadama 1, Fadama 2, Fadama 3 on their cars. These are utility vehicles. How long will it take those projects, the outcome of this project, to come to the market? That's where I try to hold my breath. Agriculture we're talking about, my brother, I think at this time to be corrected. I was telling my professor the other day that if I have a substantive amount of money, substantial amount of money, I will just walk out of the university walk out of my professional calling, go into the rural area, set up farms, create good road, get myself water, give myself 1, 2, 3 bedroom flat that can accommodate me. I'll go into farming. In 6 years, brother, I tell you, I will feed the entire local government. All of us are farmers.
So you're are you saying we're underperforming in
I have not asked me. It is an opinion. I have not seen the federal government policy on agriculture in my state. Like I said, maybe I'm not exposed to that level. I don't know. Maybe, but I cannot see. If you have anyone, you can let us have idea.
Let's talk about the SIPs now. The social investment. This government has paid substantial amount of money and a very sizable amount of resources to pursuing the SIPs, that's the social investment program. We're going to talk about all of this just right after this break.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Thank you for staying with us on the program. I was just going to talk to you, Doc, a while ago about the SIPs, the social investment programs. Beyond trader money, market money, and so on and so forth, there are other, a handful of them, initiatives along that line, like the Empower, for instance. We are told these have, to a reasonable extent, alleviated the pain of unemployment in this country. And going forward, the government continues to reassure us that these are projects that are here to stay for the longer term. Are we going to say this also, as initiatives, do not make some very reasonable difference overall?
Anyway, I get worried sometimes to avoid being a cynic or being seen as a cynic who never sees anything good about the system. But with time, I get relieved when my predictions or my fears come to fall. We once had Shopee project in this nation. It falls under that umbrella of SIP. How did it end? The one we're talking about now, for the 40,000, whatever they call the Empower, whatever. These are momentary and just an interim, what I call shock absorbing, just a stopgap mechanism. They don't have a long-term effect. I had a girl who, by the grace of God, she has left the Empower project now for a season job. I was asking her, how do you do your Empower? I said, we know in Nigeria, whatever. I said, you go to your primary place, whatever. What she confessed to me is not a thing I will discuss on the public. Government across the world has never been a good employer. It is true. We don't need hypothesis or empiricism to prove it. But what government does is to articulate blueprints, roadmaps that will allow the player that will be good manager of resources, good management of human being to thrive. The Empower, we are throwing this traders money, throwing all this. I can't imagine. I think there was one, whether it's a cartoon on the network the other day that federal government has spent so and so amount of billions on traders money and Empower, and the budget for education and health, they were put side by side by that. The Empower budget swallowed up education and health.
And that's not a good development, is it? And
you tell me a society, see, the earlier we try to live where we were before and make a mindset, we are ready to go to where we need to go to. Education and health, these are the two umbrella bodies. If you are mentally challenged, the health centers take care of you. If you are bodily challenged, the medical take care. But if you are, where do we start from? The SIP, my brother, I think it is not necessary at all because we are not seeing the impact. If we are doing analysis, the SIP data are not necessary for us to run our decision and make a decision, informed judgment. Because they are stopgap mechanisms. They are not adding up. That's my own theory. Create a policy that will make the farming business to be okay, that will make the lecturing work, academic school education to be okay, that will make players like you and I to enter into organized private sectors. These are the people that give a long-term job for the people.
Let's talk about all of these economic issues. I mean, you just talked about policies, for example. Time and again, a lot of analysts like yourself would say that Nigeria as a country does not have a problem with policies.
Of course,
the issue has always been implementing these policies.
Yes.
But look at the Central Bank of Nigeria, for example. In 2018, in particular, for instance, the CBN governor talked about many issues regarding the economic policy trust. Going forward, and this is 2019, 1 year down the line, we're still trying to put down figures on certain things that have been accomplished so far. Just this week, for example, starting from yesterday, we are told now that a new policy direction has been introduced again as far as the banking sector is concerned, where if you're making a withdrawal of over 500,000, you have to you'll be charged 3% of the amount. If you're making a deposit of over 500,000, you'll be charged 2% of that amount. Of course, the percentage is higher for corporate entities. Just today, this morning in the news, organized private sector and other key stakeholders within the economy are saying that these policies are not friendly, will put more pressure on the banking public. Some persons have even said many of these policies are counterintuitive and very conflicting. What's your sentiment about those?
What has the government done about issuance of door checks?
But that's being criminalized, doesn't it? Is that not enough?
How many has fallen or have been jailed
for issuing door checks?
For issuing door checks. I had a bitter experience. After they supplied my supposed beneficiary of the business gave me a door check. As I speak with you, it took the intervention of a union, a non-governmental body, for me to get the money after 4 years.
After 4 years?
After 4 years. Now, in some developed clime, there's what we call, like in America, if you are to withdraw above $10,000, there's a form they give you, you fill. But if you elect not to fill the form and stop the transaction, they will give you, they will not, by way of what, alerting the system.
Okay, I want you to push that trajectory, but that will be after we take this quick break so we can broaden the conversation on the program this morning. Stay with me.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Yes, Prof. Okay, I was going to call you Prof. Doctor, you were just talking about something that had to do with your personal experience a while ago.
Yes.
So you said a union intervened.
Yes. It was actually a petroleum product supplies. The marketer issued a check that was supposed to get the following Thursday. Get it to the bank, they said, drawers attention required. That was November 2009. I didn't get that money not until August 1st, 2013. Through intervention of Lupeng. From the data state where the event was reported on the what you call B division to their headquarters, we had to transfer the case to Zone 5.
In Benin?
In Benin here. We were spending money added to the money that is already, that was hanging. I was now advised, guy, you can't get your headway. We pulled out from that unholy arrangement and approached the Nupeng. We got the money after 4 years. After the impact of inflation, value for money had been eroded. Now you're talking about the withdrawal limits or whatever. Like I was saying, in the US precisely, we try to benchmark ourselves with other great nations because none of the theory we are applying today is our own.
They were all borrowed.
We borrow them. We try to adopt and adapt. If you are withdrawing above $10,000, they will give you a form, currency transaction report, which Nigeria also have under the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, showing your source of earning the money, every other thing. No charge is attached to that.
Okay.
But if you elect not to go ahead with that transaction and you decide to withdraw less than that by saying you want to withdraw 9,900 or whatever, they will also give you suspicious transaction report form, which evidences everything between you and the banks as well as the state. Why? Because a lot of people have been using those transactions to launder illicit funds, money, terrorism, whatever. Now, going back to Nigeria, what was the reason they gave for this withdrawal individual, deposit 3%, withdraw 2%, corporate 5%, 8% as it were, that for ease of audit trail, ease of to track transactions, ease of reduce the cost of printing currencies,
and to strengthen cashless
policies. Fine, these are good in their original intent. But why will the people now begin to subject them to the cost for the money they have gotten in a society where we are talking of the gap between the poor and the rich abnormally too high? I tell you, what happened to VADs, voluntary asset declaration, whatever, that's for tax purposes. How did we end? Because when we now push it to the level of the untouchables, the policy collapse.
But again, let's be fair to truth. The VADs, the voluntary assets income declaration, scheme, was time bound, wasn't it? There was a window. There was a 9-month window for it.
So
it was not supposed to last forever.
Not of course, no. After which it was a policy direction that after this period, it will now open up the window for other action
to broaden the tax net.
What that happened after the VAD window was extended? What happened when it finally ended? Because you and I, from the social media, from the print media, from electronic media, from different sources, we discovered that there were a lot of people that were not supposed to be touched, that were within that bracket. So those things now, it will not hit the wall. You have alluded to the fact that we don't have problem with policy articulation. What we have is just the political will to articulate those things, to bring this into bear. Now, if I withdraw, for me, as a university teacher, by the grace of God, I don't think I will be caught in the web of these charges.
Okay. Because you break your transactions.
I don't even have. We don't even have. We don't even have. We don't even have it. Where will you have the 500 and something thousand? See, let me tell you, some people will tell you this will also reduce the robbery, incidents, or whatever. Do we have robbery today again? Very, very little. But what we have now is organized kidnapping. They will hold you, you go and bring the money, and they will still get the money and go. Well, now, what are you not saying you want to use to check this in? I see these are all just outdated policies or justification to make us just to be sympathetic with them. I don't know how it's going to work. Sanusi, before he left, Sanusi brought in this thing. There was a palace state, Kano, Lagos, and Abuja also. They were palace scheme. We are already getting used to it. When this brother came on, there was a reversal. Now they've lost. So when there's policy inconsistency, you, one, erode public confidence. Two, you would have made yourself look like a laughing hero. Three, nobody sees you as a serious-minded policy maker when you are coming back again. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to be seen as a cynics, and I keep making it. But with time, everybody knows that we are not ready at all.
Let me allow you to catch your breath now, Doc, and come to Destiny. If you look at the Economic Advisory Council, I mean, its composition in particular, you have brilliant minds there, individuals who have accomplished so much in their fields of endeavor. Starting with the chairman, that's the Professor Doyin Salami, right? Exactly. Then you have guys like former CBN Governor Soludo, and then you have Bismarck, Rowan, somebody who has accomplished great feats, particularly in the private sector, big time.
Yes.
He said off camera a while ago that Nigeria as a country has never lacked great minds like this. How do we change the narrative for the better, making the most of the value that these guys bring on the table?
Yes, like he said, we've never had the problem with intelligent people in government.
Okay.
We never had that. The problem has always been the conflict between political considerations and common sense, using these intelligent ideas. Okay, and that has to do with our general culture of looking at government itself. So if it's not enough to just assemble scholars, even in the CBN, the former advisory team, we had the CBN governor there, we had scholars there. The problem is not the scholars, it's having an intelligence system that works, an intelligence system that works. What if these people do all their macroeconomic analysis and present an advice that's against the political interest of these people who run the economy? What now happens? We go back to, we ignore it. We ignore it. Okay, and then when we ignore it, we go back to the stakes. But I must say without missing words, that first of all, it's a right step in the right direction.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, it shows to the international community and Nigerians that the president is serious about tackling the economic challenges. It's a statement. When you assemble private sector intellectuals in government as part of the advisory group, you send messages to the international community, to the business sector, that you mean business, that you want to do something against political values generally. And so it is a smart move. It's a smart move. But the problem is, will it just be on paper? Will these people, with their advice, be heeded to? Because, for instance, if you look at the president's behavior before now, it has been anti-capitalist.
Okay.
Okay. These people, if you check the composition of the people, they are all capitalist-minded economists.
Apparently.
Okay, they are private sector driven, they believe in the free market system and things like that. But the president as a person has been following statist policy, interventionist policies, telling the CBN what to do, telling the customs what to do and things like that. He interferes in the economic mathematics.
All right.
But these people don't believe in this kind of interference. They believe you should do your job as a politician and allow the economic system work. Now, when there's a clash of ideologies here. These private sector people, they've even criticized most of the president's policies before now.
Yeah.
About three of them. Clearly, vehemently, they criticized the president's issue on the foreign exchange rate when he was trying to fix it, leave it where it is, when they said they should go for free market system.
And our market forces determine it.
The president went against their values. That's one. Number two, talking about instructing the CBN to do certain things. You don't instruct the CBN to do certain things in a typical macroeconomic system that is run by free market principles. The CBN is supposed to be independent of any consideration, although it can be directed, but you don't say it publicly. You can do it in-house.
Passively.
Yes, passively. You don't come out to the public to give the world impression that the CBN is one of your tools to manipulate. But the president has done that openly. And the CBN seems to be backing what the president is saying too. Now, there's a problem. These people are private sector driven. They work from the real world, while the president works from the political world, the values of politics. And so when they give an advice to the president, what we need to find out is, will the president have the political will to follow it through? That's one. Secondly, will the president not allow his political ideas or personal values conflict with the values that they profess? So those are the issues here. Because it's obvious from his body language that he does not believe in free market principles as designed in the economics. Because that is where the world is going to.
Well, you have talked about two things extensively, but
yes.
Let me take you on first on one,
yes.
which is the issue of capitalism.
Yes.
If we went all capital driven,
yes.
say we started believing all of a sudden in capitalism,
yes.
both within the political class and even amongst the members of the public and investment minded Nigerians, for
yes.
example, would that shoot us up further as an economy?
Okay. The debate will never be settled easily. It's a complex debate. But one thing is certain. Like an economist said, if you are a capitalist if you're a socialist at 20, you can be forgiven. But at 40, all of us should be capitalists. The expression, what it means is that for a country that is growing, there needs to be some basic socialism. Okay? But for a country that wants to shoot and compete with other nations in the world, the best way to compete is capitalist ideals. For example, the vice president in his original team was looking at giving what we call social intervention programs.
That's within the economic management team.
Things like that. And then his idea was giving palliatives in the form of free money, things like that. But it's against capitalist principles. You don't use free money to develop a country like that. You are going to simply immiserize the people or increase the level of poverty. You understand? So there must be some balance. I think if where the problem is in the critical sectors of the economy, the big sectors, government should come in. Naturally, it's backed by economic principles. For a country that does not have private capital to develop itself, Nigeria does not have private capital, enough private capital. The government, using its machinery, its policies, and the power it has, can develop the critical sectors while allowing the private sector to run with those critical sectors. For instance, you don't expect the private sector at Nigeria's level of development to solve the power problem. You know, the power problem is not something the president can, the executive can ignore and deliberately. It will not happen. It will not happen. The executive must be directly involved in solving the power problem. You can't leave it to the private sector. There will be market failures. One, there's no private capital. Two, there's no incentive for these investors to bring billions of dollars into this economy to generate enough power for us. You know, there are conflicting interests here. There are people who import generators and make a lot of money from doing that. So there are not enough private interest in the power sector. So the executive must come in that area. When it comes to infrastructural development, you don't expect the private sector to be building roads for us. The president must, as a matter of will, see it as a policy direction to ensure that we have a lot of transport infrastructure, ports, airports, heliports, all manner of ports, to ensure that the private sector can do business.
Before I come back to Charlie West, I want you to address one more issue. You mentioned market in passing.
Yes.
Just hope you've not forgotten that.
Yes.
A lot of people believe that if this, as we know it now, EAC, the Economic Advisory Council,
yes,
had been inaugurated by an American president, for example, within 24 hours, markets will react aggressively, for good or for bad.
Of course.
Do we have such dynamics playing out in Nigeria, for example?
Yeah, the truth is the international community does not take our decisions seriously. When they set up a system, you quickly see the effect, because they are serious-minded people. So when you assemble a team like that, the investors, the market responds quickly, because they know that those people are going to make decisions that will work. Okay, but in Nigeria, this is how it is. It's still on paper in the eyes of Nigerians. You assemble people who totally are against your values, which you have shown in the last 4 years. That's number one. Number two, you disbanded an economic team which was there before. We have not given an appraisal why you are disbanding it. First of all, is it because they failed? You know, if they failed, we have to see to see the
failures,
indices, the figures. Before you create another team, you must first of all establish the reason why you.
But somebody said this is not just a team; it's a council that it is almost statutory compared to the AMT itself.
Yes, that one is statutory, and then for you to disband something that is statutory.
No. I mean that's the Economic Council is statutory, but the EMT is not. That's the argument that some persons are advancing right now.
The National Economic Council is statutory. It's in our constitution. But what you have been using since is the EMT. Which is not.
Yes. So you're saying we should have had an appraisal.
Changing nomenclature.
Yes. What we just simply did was to change I think the only novel thing is the balance of this. These ones are private.
In terms of the composition.
Yes, private, independent practitioners.
Okay.
Compared to the other ones that were made up of politicians and which have political interest. That's the only difference. So there's this balance between politics and economics here. These people, because of their orientation and their practice, they are not inclined towards political considerations. They are more interested in the economic fundamentals. And so that's the advantage, the up of this over the previous one. And secondly, there's also a divergence of ideas. The previous ones, we are more interested in trying to do what's called social palliatives, like I told you. Solving the problems socially, unemployment, poverty, and things like that. Whereas this one, I'm more interested in using market principles, like attracting foreign investment, building infrastructure, and things like that. So they are looking at the long term, while those ones are looking at short term. So on those grounds, they are different orientations.
I'm going to come back to you shortly, but let me talk to Charlie West a bit now. Two things here, sir. The first is we're looking at a situation now where you not only have the EAC on the ground, it's clear that they have to report directly, I mean directly being the operative word, to the president.
Yes.
And then you have the challenge of attracting direct foreign investment, which, as he already alluded to, it's a whole lot of trouble for Nigeria, because you don't have so much of private sector fund to push many of these things. As it stands today, sir, the discos are highly indebted. that should keep us all awake at night, for instance. That's just one sector, one of the many critical sectors. How do we run circles around these challenges in front of us?
Okay. Globally, governance is a matter of transparency and trust. Markets thrives on confidence. You were trying to put a question, how, since the assemblage of these eggheads, has there been any reaction? By and large, the nation today, like he said, we do not believe in any of the policies that are coming because we know the end of the policy from the very beginning it was brought.
And that's a bad thing, isn't it?
It will not take the government today to prove me wrong in my theory. In fact, all the EAC, I want to make one correction. There is nothing statutory about this. It's not backed by the law. It's just an assemblage of the wisdom of the leader. He can wake up tomorrow and say, okay, bye-bye, thank you very much.
And we're done.
We are done. Nobody queries anybody. There is no participatory effect and governance on this nation. Nobody asks you, how did you do what you told us you were going to do? Nobody asks. And if any attempt to ask, you are seen as a cynic and an opposition, which most of us do not want to end. But for me, I am not bothered. I choose to be called whatever, but with time you will know that truly we are not what you are thinking. If you come to look at these people you have assembled together, there's no two ways about it. Capitalist or socialist or welfare, whatever you call it, there is no one best theory. You said discourse is indebted. I was discussing with somebody in Abuja last week. I said, a situation whereby the public properties were stripped. The scrap, I call it scrap value. PAC or what they call NEPA was scrapped to the private cronies who lack the technical depth and expertise to function. He said, road, what happened to the petroleum sector that government is subsidizing? That's supposed to be one of the sector the government comes in because of the capital, huge capital outlay. Has it ended well? The what do you call those things that people now after claim they supply the crude, the product, they go and collect the money, nobody supply, empty tanker, document it and take all those things. Have we seen anybody that have been sentenced for that? Of course nothing. Education sector is another capital intensive sector that is supposed not to be left in the hand of private. What about health? These sectors are areas government is supposed to take charge of and leave the other unit for investors like me and you, entrepreneurs like all of us to begin to work with, only to regulate the way it's supposed to be done. But these are not there. I tell you the problem that will befall this nation shortly. I'm not a prophet. The education that you have abandoned, the children you have failed to train today, they will come and train you tomorrow. It all left on what they were trained with that they are going to give to you. If they are trained in hooliganism and killing, they will come and do it to you. The health sector that we have abandoned today will laugh at us. Do you know, even me now, I don't take drugs from the medical whatever. I believe in
natural. Back to the bush now.
I'm back to the bush. I'm back to the bush. I had, not too long, January this year, I had cough that persisted after taking augmentin, taking other things. I went to my mother in the village. I want to go. A little boy went to the bush and brought bark of tree. I put it inside the water, took that thing. You will not believe the effect of that thing. The next 2 weeks, I was cured of that cough that lingered for 3 months. That's confidence erosion. We have not lacked men of this. These men, they are. The fear I have is they were thrown up now to be disgraced. They are thrown up to be disgraced. Mark my word. they'll end up being completely pushed to the dustbin. Whatever they have been outside, market always react to information. Like yesterday, I think Donald Trump gave an instruction to the CBN to double into their rate, their exchange rate, whatever, their interest, whatever. Fine. It is done every year, particularly a year preceding election year throughout the countries. We have seen it. That's the cross of my work. We have seen that year towards the end of their whatever electoral year, to garnish support and get the ovation louder, they try to put a spine in the wheel of all these macroeconomic indices. And when these things are playing out, when you see employment moving, you see industrial grow everything, and when the citizen will come again to swallow by what we call bullet after the election. There's no country that doesn't do that. But the fear we are having is when you have the monetary sector being determined by the fiscal arm, which is supposed to be the political side, you have a problem. The monetary sector are supposed to be the watchdog. Check me here. This is our policy. They bring it out. Even if you are doing selective implementation of their theory or whatever their findings are, leave the rubrics there. With time, they can say this is what we give. But the situation whereby you, as the CBN governor or the head of monetary whatever, you are now hobnobbing with the political class. This is how we wanted it to be. Okay, no. Can we give an option? So we are not ready. Market cannot react to this. Capital market cannot react to this. Nothing will react to this because they know what is going to be from the beginning and the point of it. We know how it's going to end.
Incidentally, we in the studio are already reacting now, but let's see how much we can expand this reaction in the days and weeks ahead. But Justin, let me talk to you quickly about something that happened just this week now, actually starting from last week. A certain Sheon Onigbinde, the co-founder of Budgets, was appointed technical advisor to the Minister of State for Budget. A few days down the line, he resigned that appointment. Young, brilliant man, so much of ideas. I mean, this is somebody who co-founded and co-runs a public enterprise platform that has become so monumental in this country, and young people are so excited about it because it helps them track budgets and budgetary processes and so on and so forth. It has raised a lot of dust. So much of conversation has been spun out of it. A lot of persons are now saying that some of us who are critical of government's policies, especially where they have to do with fiscal issues, budgetary issues, don't even have the nerve to follow through with some of these things, don't even have the courage, the thick skin to take criticism. It further raises the question of how possible it is for people who have spent essentially their lives within the private sector to come into public space and be able to deliver maximally.
Yeah, it raises a question because, like I said, like has been said, the scholastic group of Nigerians, they are afraid of politics.
Yes.
They're afraid of politics. And it's not just, it's accumulated failures that led to it. You know, I read a paper one time when somebody was criticizing Professor Wole Soyinka that he headed one government agency and failed woefully. And that's somebody we respect, naturally. And then we must also understand too that when a system does not follow logical principles, people who are educated, scholars, find it difficult to operate in such a system. For instance, if you take a man and a monkey to a jungle and find who will survive easier, the monkey will survive better in the jungle.
Because of the environment.
That is the terrain. So our system does not allow scholars to operate because the system is chaotic. It's unpredictable. Okay, there was a time we went to bring Professor Dr. Ngozi to run our finance ministry. Yes. And then we expected one big change to happen. This is somebody who has been vice president of the World Bank division. And yet, Nigeria's circumstances are peculiar. It's unique to Nigeria. So if most people will not want to get into Nigerian issue and dabble into it and get lost in it, except the core Nigerian educated. You know, we have two classes of Nigerians. We have the Western educated Nigerians, the IMF economists, and then we have the rugged, hardcore Nigerians who had most of their degrees in this country. And then those ones find it easy to mingle in the system, unlike the ones, the IMF educated people. When they come, like these people you see here, most of them are from the IMF group. That's why they can express their opinions without fear. fighting macroeconomic policies without fear. They are not interested in political office. So they can express those ideas. And these Western-oriented people tend to have ideas that are Western-driven, universally driven, not Nigeria
centered.
No, not Nigeria-centered. But we need a hybrid of both. We need a hybrid of both because Nigeria lives in a macroeconomic environment that involves the entire world.
Right.
And so anytime we take decisions here, it has effect on the world, and the world also affects us. So, but first of all, I think what we need now is people who are Nigerian-centered first, who do not have the world at hand. You know why? Because the world economics is not consistent with Nigerian economics. Nigeria is not a free market system. Nigeria has unemployment issues. Nigeria has a large informal sector, which we have no database of what is going on in this country. So when you put a rate in the US, for instance, you increase the rate, the central bank rate, you see markets respond. You see it's a beautiful system. They respond quickly. They respond according to theory.
Right.
But if you do those same things in Nigeria,
it won't work.
It doesn't work because the informal sector swallows. We have a dualized economy. That means a formal sector running side by side with an informal sector that is very large and can swallow it.
That's a shrink.
And then when you make decisions, the total impact on the economy fizzles out when it gets to the informal sector.
Right.
So that is why the government, you see, for instance, they wanted to raise the revenue, for instance, and they talked about
for the VAT, right?
Using VAT. If you use the direct means of collecting taxes, which is actually the more sustainable, finding other ways within the tax net, the policy itself. If you find that, if you try to do that, Nigerians do not like to pay taxes because they have already paid enough. They have paid enough. I'm writing a paper on the implicit tax of being a Nigerian.
Okay.
There's a cost of being a Nigerian.
Yeah.
Even when you are unemployed, for example.
That's what I mean. Just being a Nigerian, you pay a certain amount of tax.
On account of your citizenship.
It's just for us to place a value on it. Just being a Nigerian citizen is a tax. For instance, I told you the cost of diesel for banks is 20 to 30% of the operations cost. Diesel cost.
Alone.
Alone. Now that amount you see, I just mentioned banks, all Nigerians bear it. You get the point? The generators in this country generates 14,000 megawatts of power. Generators. The country itself generates 4,000 megawatts of power. Now imagine the private cost of generating 40,000 megawatts of power. That cost is borne by Nigerians. So just being a Nigerian, you are taxed. Anytime Nigerians are arrested abroad for fraudulent activities, it's a tax on the country. It therefore means if I want to do business with foreigners, they are going to use those indices
as basis
to relate with me. So being Nigerian is hard on its own. So when you now try to tax these already taxed people, there's this what you call resistance naturally.
Okay.
And so that's why the CBN prefers to use the easy approach,
which is raising VAT from 5% to 7.5%.
That one you cannot run away from it. So they want to raise.
It's a follow-on kind of arrangement.
Yes, quick. You collect the money fast. Where they cannot run away from it.
Right.
So you take it from the financial sector, you take it from their deposits, take it from their transactions. They are going to start that by 2020. Anytime you make an online transaction, they collect tax.
Yes.
Because that's the only way to collect tax from Nigeria.
Okay. In 30 seconds, Charlie West, just what will be your last words?
Well, my last word for this program is, if we want to make the nation competitive, vis-a-vis ease of doing business, increasing employment rate, reducing crime and criminalities, we first of all need to work on our systems and our structure. The legal system needs to be overhauled for confidence from international investors. The security system needs to be overhauled for both within and outside dwellers. And the educational system needs to be looked into. Otherwise, we'll begin to live and take what our children will be given to us. What we refuse to give them today, they will give us tomorrow. On the final note, health sector, these are areas that the government need to look into. I looked at the team. I didn't see anyone that have a foundation on this sector, health. They are all economists. Fine. There's what we call health economists. They could be there. Health economists could be there. But there is nothing wrong in bringing in somebody who is grounded on these key sectors of the economy. Fine, most of them were academics, and their strength and character is not doubtful. But we need a health sector practitioner who will come here and say, this is how it is done. This is how we should do it. This is where we are. This is where we need to be, and this is what we need to do to get to where we are. These are policy direction.
Okay, incidentally, it will appear that's so much time we're allowed to take. on this program as far as this discussion is concerned. I want to thank especially Dr. Shirley Wester-Boigbe, lecturer at University of Benin and economic analyst, for coming on the program. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Also, we've had this morning Destiny Awobu. Is an economist and a statistician. He has also brought his own wealth of knowledge on this discussion this morning. Deeply appreciated.
Thank you very much.